Now we're actually live. Hey, Frank.
Okay. Hello, David. Yeah, welcome to all the viewers all over the world, the hundreds and of thousands and millions of viewers.
and
Here's another episode of David and Frank's Transatlantic Conversations. And
and this time we can actually see comments. I've got that figured out now. So if anybody's watching on whatever platform, if you're happening to be watching live,
comment,
we can actually see your comments. If yeah, or
oh,
I
that,
can
that will
anyway.
be dangerous.
It
That
could be
will be
dangerous.
dangerous.
Yeah.
I have to make a little bit advertise my band.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Wait,
So,
What? The mission A, mission A.
Mission A,
Die,
yeah. And
die etwas
at the
andere Band.
band. The
The something else band is that
yes, yeah.
great?
we're
Excellent.
two people, and we're a little bit. We're making crazy music, some punk, some electro, and some wishy washy.
Wonderful. I
but
love the
but we
name.
have we have no possibilities to perform.
No.
But that's not only because of COVID. That's because our music is too crazy, I think.
But do all the musicians live in the same part of Germany? Like, could you perform if you wanted to? Is it a
Yes,
potential?
definitely.
Yeah.
We just do.
Mm.
I play guitar and sing, and my drummer drums and does
Very
nothing else.
manageable. Very manageable.
Yes,
And you don't need a
I
bass
do also.
player?
No, no. We wanted to have a bass player, but it's very difficult to find him because all the bass players
Yeah.
they
Bass
are
players
too.
and drummers. Very hard to come by. And then a good drummer also has to have a van. I mean, drummers are kind of useless if they don't have
Yeah,
a
and the bass
vehicle, right?
players they don't talk too much. They always do boom 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 boom, and so
Oh, stand-up bass, yeah, they need to have a vehicle too. So it really excludes anybody who can't afford a large car or van, right? You
it's
can't get that instrument out. Yeah,
yes.
we're
So
lucky to play guitar.
yes,
Yeah,
we're
the
going
state
to
of
play the
affairs. I think last time we talked, there
yeah.
had been an election in this country, and
I know,
that's still the case.
I
But
know. I'm now watching CNN. I don't understand everything, but I understand that Joe Biden is the next president.
Joe Biden
Will be
theoretically will be the
perhaps.
president next month, but yeah, but at the same time, of course, the entire country is facing an out of control pandemic, and the hospitals are all straining at the seams, and the health system is collapsing. Basically, I mean, all the workers are going to work, but there's fewer and fewer of them, more and more of them getting sick, and there's just way too many patients, and it's a disaster. It's a complete disaster. I mean, it's
But
really
the
going to get bad.
numbers are in Germany are almost as high if you compare it to the population. We've got 80
Mm.
million people, and you've got 300, and we've got about 400 deaths a day, and you have got 2,000. So the
Oh, you're
situation
doing
is
really
just
bad there too, huh?
it's also
Damn,
and here
that's
in the
worse.
south of
Worse than I
Germany,
thought.
it's more worse. My parents they live in Hamburg, in the north of Germany, and there it's much better. They
So,
say
what's
it's
the system? What's the situation like with the healthcare? I mean, with the hospitals, are they totally like at risk of being totally overwhelmed, or are they better resourced? Are they running
I
out
think
of things?
it's a,
They're running out of
it's a
masks.
little bit better than in the US, but for a month I worked 4 years ago in a hospital. I was carrying the patients between the different stations, and there the situation was so that we have got in Ludwigsburg. They put all the little hospitals they put together in one place, and so the situation is not so good before the pandemic, and now it's getting worse. But I think you couldn't compare it to your situation. But in northern Germany, they say they have got lower numbers because the people in northern Germany they are not so they don't embrace so much the other ones. They say the people in northern Germany are more how will you say it? They are not so empathic like
Mm-hmm. Right.
but I don't know, but yes,
That's the
and
that's the prejudice. Yeah. The fish heads
this
are more.
prejudice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the fish head. So I'm also a fish head, so it's for me very hard to live here in the south of Germany because they are more like they are more capitalist than in the north, I think.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Interesting. Yeah.
Yes, but
Definitely more conservative. I mean, tending to be more conservative politically, right? With that, except for
yes,
certain pockets. Yeah.
parts. We've got a green governor, like you say, here in
Mm-hmm.
Baden-Württemberg.
Mm-hmm.
But the green governor is more like yeah, it's more like a conservative. So he hasn't got so much to do with the aims of the Green Party in the beginning of the 80s. There is not so much left. The Green Party is now, I would say, also conservative
Mm-hmm.
with a little bit of environment.
Right. Right. That seems to be the way it's going.
Yes, but the thing is, they made a lockdown here in Germany in November, but it was not a lockdown. This was just um, all the shops were open, everything was fine. Just the artists and the cinemas couldn't be open or couldn't perform, and everything else was going the way it used to go. And so the numbers uh, haven't gone down. So
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
it's just the vaccine. What they say could do anything, but yes, the I think the politicians, they don't know what they do.
Yeah,
What,
because
what,
they're
what-
scared which way, whatever way they go, they're scared to lock down the economy
yeah.
and they're scared to let the virus spread uncontrolled. So they don't know what to do. Somewhere in between the two, they try to remain, and it doesn't really work very well. It seems. I mean, it's a big challenge, but it seems like the more sort of some of the capitalist countries of the West have done the worst with this virus compared to some other countries that have been able to deal with the sort of shutting down of the economy much better. I mean, including some in Europe. I mean, it seems like they've done pretty
Yes,
well in
in
Denmark. They've done, yeah.
Belgium, they made a lockdown, a real lockdown for I think just 2 weeks, and the numbers were going down. And I think a lot of the supermarkets here in Germany, they really prosper because of the pandemic. We
Mm,
did they were open every day, and all the IKEA and the other big shops also open every day, and here people are ordering via Amazon,
mm-hmm.
and they get rich and richer. So yes, it's always the same. The little ones are they're getting poorer and the rich richer. So
Yep. Yep. That's the way. And so lots of Amazon ordering and very little business for
yes.
the small shops that are all closing, right? Is that the same kind of thing? A lot of stores are closing permanently, or have they avoided that kind of thing happening in the center of the towns in
Mm,
Germany? Are
no, no,
they keeping them alive somehow? Like, because here they're all
I
just closing.
the little shops, yes, yes,
Hmm.
yes, the little shops here in my area. I live at the suburb of Ludwigsburg, and there are little shops, yes, closing.
Like
Just
permanently.
yes,
Not
what?
just temporarily. It looks like sometimes they open back up again when they looked like they were permanently closed. I don't know what sometimes, but usually they're just closing very permanently, looks like.
Yes, it's a problem is that some jobs like pizza delivery here. I've got a pizza delivery shop just right over the street, and they have open until 2 o'clock, and that's in this little town. It's very late.
Yeah.
They they make money, money, money,
Oh
money. So
yeah.
that's that's unfair that some are really getting profits, and
Hmm.
through the lockdowns they are not. Doesn't matter for them if they are the lockdown because they are not involved in that. You know,
Any idea what the most popular pizza is there in the suburbs of Stuttgart?
I don't know.
Don't know. Because my friend Christian Svensson in Sweden believes that the kebab pizza is probably
Kebab
the
pizza.
most yeah probably the most popular pizza in
Okay.
Sweden. He thinks it should be the national dish of Sweden.
Yes, yes. The kebab shops also they make also a lot of money. So I think we are and we're having the wrong jobs. That's
Yeah, it's not a good time to make music. Pizza
yeah,
is much more practical.
yes. But I don't know how to make this, and then you have to buy a oven and so and yes.
Yeah,
But
that's yeah, a lot of overhead.
now I watched a lot of CNN now, and well, I couldn't understand that people really just are defending Mr. Trump, and they know what he says. That are all lies, and I don't know if you say there are some crazy people. You say a few thousand, but if you think there are 70 million people voted for him, so that I couldn't understand how is that possible.
I mean, I think there's one of the complexities with having a two-party system is no matter how completely bizarre some candidate may be, there's still only two choices. So people are going to make choices based on very limited possibilities, and it's really can be really hard to figure out why people make certain choices when they only have two choices. I think if there's five choices and each one is at least somewhat politically different from each other, then you can make a lot more political analysis from the voting than if there's only two choices. It's just makes it harder. But I think also, I mean, part of the thing also is that first of all, Trump, his followers are being lied to constantly by the media that they're watching, which really is
Mm,
just spreading lies and propaganda. But at the same time, the media that the Democrats watch is
mm,
also spreading lies and propaganda, and they've been doing that for decades. And so, which is part of the problem. Which it's part of the reason why you can have 70 million Trump voters believing Fox and not believing CNN, because CNN is terrible too. And like 2003, CNN, Fox, NPR, all BBC for that matter, all kinds of news outlets from all throughout the West, throughout the United States, especially, were actively lying to their publics, really throughout Britain as well, lying about the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, which turned out to be completely not there. The program didn't exist. The weapons weren't there. They were just lying about everything. 31 lies that Colin Powell delivered at the United Nations in 2003. All 31 of the main statements he made were lies. And so this kind of record that the media has and that the
mm,
politicians of both parties have has just undermined any kind of credibility, of the mass media so much, and and then you find, statistics that are kind of hard to figure out how to analyze it because there's so many different ways you can cut it. But apparently, Trump's base of support, oftentimes you can break it down in so many different ways. But one of the ways you can look at it is wherever you find the most combat veterans, you find Trump voters. I mean, these are because he's constantly saying he's against these wars. I mean, it's not true. He's, but he's saying he's against them and he's taking the troops out, and these people have been lied to by the Democrats and by the Republicans in the past. And Trump is posing himself as an exception. And Biden is was very much running on the platform of being part of the establishment. I mean, that was his campaign, basically, bring back the Obama establishment. And now he's, of course, appointing Obama cabinet, a whole bunch of bankers left over from the Obama administration, just Blackstone instead of Goldman Sachs. So he's switched banks, but his advisors are coming from the banking sector again. It's and of course he ends his speeches by saying, "God bless our troops."
Mm.
Biden does. So this is, I mean, this is the choice for a lot of people. This is the choice they're looking at. And of course, for other people, you look at Trump and you say, okay, he's a raging xenophobic, racist, neo-fascist. Of course, why would anybody vote for him? But then when you look at it from some other perspectives, like, you know, just a slight bit of historical context, and you think about where his support is coming from and what their recent life experiences have been, then it starts to make a little bit more sense. I think, actually, strangely enough, you know.
But what I think that is also here in Germany, that people that have one opinion are not have the opportunity or don't want to talk to each other. So they are just talking within their community. So for me, it's good. My father, he's a conservative, and for me, it's good to talk with him because then I have another perspective. And I think it's the problem also in the left, that people are just talking in their community and they strengthen each other with their arguments, but there is no really exchange. They don't really listen to each other, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a massive problem. And of course, it's made so much worse by Facebook and YouTube.
Yes,
You
because
know,
the people don't talk. They just leave a comment, and then you say something bad about somebody, and you have no response, and then it's okay for you. So
yeah, there's
it's
the comment culture,
yeah,
but then there's
yeah.
also the algorithms that are, showing people certain videos. I mean, there's Mm, yeah, and I don't know. Of course, it's hard to know exactly why people see certain videos or why people see certain posts. But clearly, when if you're paying attention, what I've found is the algorithms really favor conflict. They really promote conflict, and they promote arguments. By the nature of how they work, and people are not aware that this is happening, and why they're seeing certain posts from other people they're friends with on Facebook, and why they don't see other posts. And even if you try to follow people who are politically different from you, Facebook and YouTube make sure that you don't see their posts, and it's very strange. I don't know, how people, even if they want to get a well-rounded perspective, and they're trying to follow purposefully, like clicking subscribe, they still don't get to see everything in their feed the way they are expecting to. They'll be sent down rabbit holes and echo chambers because just because Facebook and YouTube have realized that this keeps them glued to the screen, makes them share stuff, gets them more angry, makes them comment, and they just want to keep them addicted, of course. But I think that's so dangerous, and people don't realize how much they're being manipulated by these platforms. But then, there's also the traditional problem of the, sort of people going into their spaces where they're comfortable, and getting into cliquishness,
Mm.
and using vocabulary that the rest of society doesn't understand, and getting into this thing, and it's very much yeah, it's a big problem. I mean, I find, when I'm traveling around in Germany, for example, I find I'm often spending a lot of time within the sort of punk scene, and sort of Osnomen kind of scene, kind of a lot of black clad, folks who a lot of ACAB spray paint on buildings nearby wherever I'm playing, oftentimes. And it's easy to forget that in this milieu, that some people outside of the milieu just despise everybody involved. I mean, I'll sometimes end up staying at an Airbnb or whatever kind of place, with somebody and get into a conversation about where I'm playing this gig the next night, and then they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're playing for those people. They're terrible." And it's very polarized how people think about that crowd, for example. And I think part of that is how people are painted in the media, and then part of it is what people do to themselves by kind of like ghettoizing themselves to some extent with their kind of cliquish sectarian attitude. Sometimes it's a complicated picture how these things happen, but
Yes,
it's
and I think for me, as an anarchist, you have always question yourself, because then I think dogmatism is rising, and I know it for the left scene in Hamburg. I was working with a friend in the 90s and early 2000s about the new right in Germany.
hmm
The new right movement, and that they copy the left behaviors and the left clothes, and that they doing something like ethnopluralism. So they say everyone is equal, just stay where you are. So they give them a little bit a more a mainstream attitude. And then we tried to find a good Antifa group in Hamburg, and it was very hard because we were more undogmatic, and you've got really old dogmatic left groups. And then we find some group that was really good. It was the Gruftis gegen Rechts. This was a group of people who made dark wave goth music, and they made in their own scene. They uh, um, figured out about right-wing tendencies, but really really good. They not say because somebody Rammstein.
hmm the
Rammstein
band
said
or the Air Force Base.
yes, both. Okay, a little story to Rammstein. When the accident happens in the 80s, I was different than now. I was a very big fan of the US. I was very conservative thinking. I was not right, but I said US is good, and I was very interested in planes and so. And it was so close that I was going to Rammstein to these exhibition where the accident happens. It was just because the train was not running. No, I mean the band Rammstein. Some of the more dogmatic lefties say they are right wing, but they are not right wing just because they're playing with some Riefenstahl aesthetic or those things. So the
Mm,
Gruftis, they really take the bands at whole, and just not um, put them in a wrong direction just because of one incident. So it was
right.
really good work. And I think it's really important also in our environment that you're not getting dogmatic, and then you have to say your opinion, and also it's if it's a different opinion that's against the left mainstream, you know what I mean. So that's
hmm
important to get a discussion. And so
Yeah, sectarianism is rife everywhere. And,
uh,
I mean, it can be an issue throughout the left, from social democrats to anarchists to communists, whatever. I mean, nobody's immune from this kind of holier than thou. Uh, yeah, but on the bright side, looking at statistics on 2020 on Spotify, which is constantly sending everybody emails about what they've been doing for the past year on Spotify. How many minutes they listened to different artists, and all these statistics that they like to email
okay.
you about. My most popular song is "I'm a Better Anarchist Than You," which I think is a very good sign that the left generally is very much against sectarianism. Otherwise
Okay,
this wouldn't be their favorite song. So it's just a little
that's
bit of social musical Spotify analysis for you.
so you're really getting famous, huh?
No, no, no. But among my 10,000 fans, I have 10,000
Okay,
fans. Among my
10,000.
10,000 fans, I'm a better anarchist than you. It's their favorite song.
That's good. No, I
Spotify
think
makes it very clear how many fans you have, so that you can stay humble, or you can feel bloated, let your ego get bloated, or whatever. But they, depending on how you feel about having 10,000 fans, there's no question how many there are, because they're keeping close track.
yeah,
10,000 unique monthly listeners.
that's good.
It
That
feels
I don't.
good.
Yeah.
It
So
basically
so
means that at any given moment of the day, there's 7 people somewhere in the world listening to you on Spotify.
that's good. That's good. I've got
Makes me feel loved.
I've got 9 followers on YouTube. My YouTube got nine, nine.
9.
That's
Wait,
nine. But
you'll have
one
10
year.
by the end of the day. I'll go find it.
But I think YouTube and Facebook on the other on the one side, it's really like you say, all the negative aspects. But in my business, when I'm filming, it's important. I need the Facebook, otherwise you couldn't make um, any connections, because I tried to some flyers, yes, and there was no return, no return. So I think Facebook and YouTube, it's not bad as a whole. It is how you use it. So the networks, um, I think you could use it also in a positive way, like we do now.
Oh
We
yeah,
are
yeah.
also in
Of
that.
course. I mean, of course, this is where everybody is. So of course we have to use these platforms. I mean, it's like not using the telephone because you don't like the
Yeah.
Bell telephone company or something. I mean, it's like you don't really. My mother's aunt, my great aunt Betty, hated Bell the company, because they were a terrible monopoly. They charged unbelievable amounts. People lost so much money to this stupid phone company that was a total monopoly and overcharging for decades. But Bell, she hated them so much she wouldn't have a phone. But that's kind of tough. Then you don't have a phone. It's not like there was another phone company. But it's the same with YouTube and Facebook. I mean, it's like not using the superhighway. I mean, of course, you got to use the highway. It's there. It's like we're not going to just drive around on this, stop at every stoplight when the autobahn is right around the corner. If you're trying to get somewhere.
But I think you can do something. So when I see why you don't have to buy things at Amazon. If I buy things, if I buy camera, I mostly buy a used camera from eBay, from another one. So I don't understand why all the people buy at Amazon, so that Mr. Bezos has another trillion dollars. So I don't understand why they do it. So they couldn't say, yeah, it is like it is. I think you can change a little bit if you do something. So
Yeah, but it's probably the same reason people are mostly watching this video on Facebook or YouTube and not on Mastodon, because they would have to go figure out how to get a Mastodon account, and then they'd find out there's hardly anything going on there. So maybe they'd watch something there, but then they'd be ending up back on Facebook or YouTube where most people are. So I mean, it's kind of like with Amazon. And I mean, if you can look for some item somewhere else and find it, but if you're lazy and you're trying to buy 10 things on the same website, you know then it's really easy. And then if you have an account, then you don't need to put in a new credit card information. And I mean, it's just all these different aspects of easy. And then, of course, they have the budget to make their website so easy to use and so fast to find everything. So there's just so many reasons. I mean, I've talked with so many people who have tried to start alternative platforms of one kind or another, whether it's music or social media or books or whatever, and they all run into the same problem of just these other platforms have just so much of a budget and so much bigger reach, and they can make everything easier and make everything more streamlined, and it's very hard to compete with that in any way. But of course you can use the platforms for good. And we can also, I think, importantly, from coming from the music standpoint, I would say we can also try to challenge these platforms dominance in various ways. I think it's not impossible to fight these platforms. They are regulated by governments, and they are subject to the control of governments and to taxation and to all kinds of rules that they have to abide by. They can be banned from countries. There's ways to fight against these companies, but it's a lot of work. And I don't know how many people are interested, but these companies are now they are now the biggest corporations on earth. Google, Facebook, Apple, looking at it from a stock market perspective, they are the biggest companies in the world with the richest people in the world running them.
But I think that's a problem. I think I hate more people that are just lazy. If they have another opinion than me, then it's okay. Then we can talk. But if they think, say, okay, we couldn't change anything. That's complicated for me. I couldn't do this. So it's like, if you are, we both know if you write a song, you have to sit down and uh, yesterday I wrote a song, and there was the idea, and then I sat down, and I wrote for 6 hours, and that's okay, but you have to do it. So
Hmm.
if you think, oh, I couldn't do it, and I won't find the out chords, also, I think people are also in the schools, don't have the opportunity to be creative. They just get their information. They have to learn their informations, then they go to the university, and
Hmm.
but the creativity, uh, I don't learn how I think we also don't learn how to write a song in school.
Yeah, and you don't learn the kind of like what I call the project orientation,
Yeah.
because it's, I mean, I'm sure somebody else calls it that too, but the idea that in school they're constantly moving you from one subject to the next, or at least traditionally in the way they do school badly, the way they still do it mainly here, it's everybody has these 45-minute long classes, and you have like 6 or 7 of them in a day or 8 of them, and it's just so rushed. And the idea of sitting in front of a blank piece of paper for 6 hours and writing a song, or taking a walk with your notebook and stopping every 10 feet to write another line, as I often do. I mean, it's just a very time consuming process that is totally vitally important to the whole art form, to have the time to just do that on a regular basis. And then, yeah, of course they're not going to have you do that in school, so it's not then, it's going to be, teaching you how to focus on something hard for 45 minutes and then change your focus completely to some other subject. It's really not suited for anybody with an artistic orientation, I'd say.
But I think uh, what you say, the project orientated learning, that's really important. I made a practicum. I don't know the
Hmm.
word.
Like a
You're
practice.
not working. You make an Ausbildung. I've studied to become a filmmaker, and so I have to do some
Mm,
practice
yeah.
weeks. And that was at a community radio, not the ones I'm just in Tübingen. And
Mm,
there also, um, they have school classes, and they learn how to produce a radio broadcast. And so they learned a lot. They learned German, they learned mathematics, they learned how to speak, they learned how to use the techniques. And so So you learn so much, and you know why you learn it in school. I just was good in school in sports and geography, or in history, and all the other subject I wasn't interested in, because I don't know. So mathematics, why do I have to learn that? So in the basic school, okay, I have to count, but then and so I think you, this project orientated learning, this is the way you have to learn, but it's too expensive. That is the problem. So and I experienced with these people and then the community radio how they really wanted to do something, how they wanted to create the radio broadcast. And then I do with them some audio editing, and first I do it myself, and then they really in a fast way they learned it, and they have
Mhm.
fun with it, otherwise than in school. And all the teachers that have been there with their pupils, they say, okay, all these pupils were better in school,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah. It's just it'd be much better if that were the way things were worked for kids, especially kids that I mean, I think anybody really can learn better by actually doing stuff like that. I mean, I always like listening to good lectures. I'm not saying that lectures are bad. Lectures can be great, but you got to also do stuff, and that's yeah.
That's the problem in the education system. Also, when I studied my filmmaking, the most time we talked about the aperture, the lenses, the ISO, how a camera works, but it was not so often that we really use the cameras.
Hmm.
That's the
Yeah.
problem. And so learning by doing, it's separated. There you've got the theoretical teaching, and there you have got the practice, but they don't combine it. So
Yeah.
and and if you are, I was then also again in the situation of a pupil, and what I do, I also do some rubbish in the you know you're really in the role of your pupil, also if you're an adult, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, when
So
you're actually producing material, then of course it's judged in another way than in school, right? I mean, then you have potentially, hopefully, if you get stuff out there, then it's got an audience that it can decide whether they think it's any good or not. But to have the
yeah,
chance to even have, be able to produce all kinds of material, whether it's we're talking about music, or especially if you're talking about film. I mean, it involves so many different people participating, and everybody has to have time and to some extent, I mean, access to equipment, software, all kinds of things. I mean, especially when we're talking about film, right? It's just the further you go along in the process, the more exclusive it ends up getting, right? I mean, I think that's one of the takeaways anyway. Like reading this book, "The Death of the Artist," that's recently out by a guy I interviewed recently, Bill Deresiewicz. It's just so much harder for anybody to have a chance to really practice their art in the face of just not being able to find any work doing that sort of thing, and also in the face of the rise of the cost of housing in this country and
yeah,
all kinds of other problems. It
yeah, it's
becomes now a situation where in the United States, although white people are just around half of the overall population, actual working artists, it's 4 out of 5 are white. And then of course most of them are barely making more than the average worker at a McDonald's, full-time, McDonald's worker. So it's not that they're making much money, but still 4 out of 5 of them are white, because you have to basically have so many different sort of lucky breaks along the way to just survive as an artist, that it ends up becoming important. Things like whether you were raised by artists or college professors, or whether you have this sort of cultural capital, and whether you have friends who are artists, and there's so many ways that whether you could go to school as to study art, so many things that end up excluding a lot of
Yeah, and
people.
you have to have the right connections to be at the right place at the right time, talking to the people. And as is, I know it. I just make some movies for the for hotels. So because I'm just one guy, so I could do. But I like it to produce little films for more private people, not for companies. For companies, it's always they 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 want to don't give you the money, and I have produced some live coverage of some swing people, and they were so about 60, and they were really great, and they always gave me more money. It was no problem, but because they think how hard it is as an artist, and they don't have money, but they gave me more. And all the people that have good money, they don't, they say yeah, and the other guys is much cheaper, and so um
Yeah, I always found, when I used to play music in the streets and the subways in Boston, the least generous people were the white guys in business suits. They were
yeah,
they hardly ever tipped. Yeah,
because they don't know how the situation is, no? they
yeah.
they just were born with a, how you say, with a golden spoon in the
Silvers,
mouth.
yeah, golden
Silver
spoon in their
spoon,
mouth.
silver
Yeah,
spoon.
silver spoon. Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, so yeah, uh, so you have another topic.
always.
What could we talk about? There's something else.
It's too much. There's always too much. There's always too
To,
much going on. I don't
so,
know.
now you're doing your broadcast and making your music. So is there just a possibility for performing
Oh well,
somewhere?
I'm gonna be doing another concert from my living room right here at
Yeah.
just at 1 o'clock Pacific time. At let's see,
Okay.
what's that? Yeah, coming up in an hour and 15 minutes or so from now. But
Ah, okay.
no prospects for
No,
concerts live. I mean, I played at a demonstration last month, and another demo a couple months before. That's all the performing in front of audiences that I've done since last March, since I canceled all my tours. And I think that's true for most musicians,
uh,
certainly around here. I think mostly pretty much around the country. Nobody's getting back to performing, and of course, we're looking forward to a massively horrible winter. Apparently, in terms of people dying and stuff.
what
But
is about
yeah,
the vaccine?
well, the vaccine
What do you
is.
think?
I mean, people are excited about the vaccine, but the getting it to the population is going to take a while. And in the meantime, this winter, there's just going to be, I mean, pandemonium because, I mean, of course, there's been lots of people staying at home and not going out for the holidays, but there were millions of people in the airports traveling over Thanksgiving, and there's millions more planning on traveling for Christmas. And uh, that's not going to be good. So, I mean, no performance plans, but I got a whole bunch of money from the unemployment department, and I'm going to make an album. Going to record an
Yeah.
album starting next weekend. Go to Big Red Studio and work with a couple of musicians to start a
Yeah.
new album project. Got to spend the
Okay.
government's money on something. Yeah,
Okay. Then I hope in a few years you come to Germany
in a
and
few
we
years. Yeah,
play
right.
play a gig together somewhere in a little venue.
Hopefully before a few years.
Yeah.
I'm
So
hoping that maybe next year it seems possible. That's some kind of, I don't know. We'll see. I have no idea. But I mean, they're talking about the vaccine getting out there, at least in the rich countries, by the end of the spring, right? So maybe that's going to mean some things happening in Europe as far as gigs go, but maybe 2022 is more realistic.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, David. Was
Good
nice
talking to you,
talking to you.
Frank. Yeah.
Okay. Then we see you next year.
See you next year.
Next year. Bye.